Greetings everyone. Today we are gathered here for a panel discussion on the topic, is India getting its act together on privatization? Today we have three panelists with us, Nishtha Malik, Bhumika Nagpal and Harshita Soni. And I, Lipika, will be moderating today's panel discussion. To begin with, privatization refers to the transfer of a service, business or industry from the public sector to private sector. Now, let us know the views on privatization from our panelists. Starting with Nishtha Malik.
Privatization is also known as deregulation. There are two ways of privatization, namely ownership, where there is complete transfer of government assets to the private sector, and disinvestment, which refers to withdrawal or reduction of investments by the government. I think in India, there is a mixed reaction on privatization due to oblivion. As general public, we do not know what privatization and its cons are, so we tend to ignore the facts. And some vital sectors such as transport and telecommunications need privatization to ensure the better efficiency of these institutions.
Bhumika, privatization is a long-term process lagging behind from so many years. Privatization helps in growth and governance of the country. Privatization helps in good decision making and good results.
Harshita? Okay, let's go back to 1947 when India first achieved independence. That time it was important that private companies be nationalized for the sake of people's welfare and interest. Since then, our country has grown tremendously and our Prime Minister now feels that privatization is what is going to take the world's fastest growing economy to new heights.
Now that we have the views of our panelists on today's topic, let us move on with some questions. My first question to all the panelists is privatization really needed in India? Nishtha?
I think privatization is an important step as it allows development holistically and collectively of the nation as a whole. Also, privatization offers better working and efficient institutions restructuring. In India, there is a need of privatization to ensure that there is accelerated economic growth on all levels.
Bhumika, privatization is for sure better good because PSB's public sector banks has always helped in privatization except SBI and cooperative insurers to pay for PSBs. Also, government hinders RBI for ownership and PSB also helps in governing the country better.
Privatization is a dire need in a country like India. It promotes healthy competition which allows the customers to enjoy good quality services and goods. Also, it creates employment, eradicating unemployment and giving job opportunities to the youth.
Okay, so let's move on to our next question for today, which is, what do you think are the pros as well as cons for privatization in India? Nishtha?
I think the advantages of privatization in India is that it offers a healthy market for competition of services. Secondly, it allows the government's minimum participation in the market, which does not allow interference of politics and corruption. I think one of the drawbacks which stands of privatization is ambulance development, because privatization is not a dimension which can reach the remotest parts of the country. So there is ambulance development which is limited only to a few economic areas.
I agree with my fellow points, but privatization do not give chance to disabilities youths. For example, according to the law of 4%, privatization should give reserved jobs to people who have disabilities. For example, reservation in job is not given in private sector, but in public sector it is provided.
Okay, I feel one of the best things about privatization is that it helps upkeep the maintenance and management of a country. Let's take the example of Air India. Before being nationalized, it was the standard of luxury flying, but after that, it saw a tremendous fall in its market share. This was because Mr. J.R.D., who was so passionate about running this company, was now replaced by government officials who only cared about their 12-hour salary and not about the maintenance and management of the company.
Also, Modinomics gives and comes up with new ideas on regular basis which helps us in transformation of our country in a good way, also in an illusionary problems.
So my next question to you all is, what sectors according to you should not be privatized by the government and why?
I feel that the education sector should not be completely privatized because There's a huge gap between private schools and government schools. So privatizing this sector completely will widen the gap even more, and everybody has equal access to education. The sector that I think should be privatized is the transport sector, because accommodating the population and increasing migration in metropolitan cities needs to be done, and bus conductors and drivers need to be properly trained for customer interactions and road manners. Speaking of railways, the trains are mostly outdated, and there are very high possibilities that you can get harassed, sometimes killed, and even robbed on a train.
According to me, agriculture sector should not be privatized because it just increases income inequalities, and the sector that should be privatized should be healthcare sector because it's more privatization needed for the growth and governance of the country.
Okay, so based on this discussion, it seems like our panelists agree and encourage privatization in the Indian economy with limited and optimum government participation to ensure multi-dimensional development.